Every human being, whether they know it or not, is driven by one thing, the desire to get better. You may call it success, you may call it growth, you may call it healing. But if we peel off the labels, it is simply this, the longing to move from one state to a better one. Now this desire, this longing, it is sacred but also dangerous. Dangerous if it is not conscious, sacred. If it becomes your doorway to transformation, you see the problem has never been desire, the problem is always unconscious direction. One man desires to rise and he becomes light for the world. Another man desires the same but in blindness and he becomes a burden to the world, so burden to the world. So don't kill your desire, refine it, ask yourself, not how can I get more, but how can I be more aware, more grounded, more alive. Getting better does not mean adding layers to yourself, it means peeling them away. Getting better does not mean running faster, it means walking consciously. It does not mean becoming someone else, it means becoming fully you without distortion. But here's the thing, if you want to truly grow, you must admit, you are not yet there. This is not weakness, this is strength. The soil must be soft for anything to grow in it. So I ask you, not to desire success, not to desire applause, not even to desire perfection. Desire clarity, desire presence, desire truth. Because when you see clearly, growth is no longer effort, it becomes grace. To desire getting better is human. To pursue it with awareness is divine. Let it not be a chase, let it be a journey. Let it not be a race, let it be a realization. Desire is not the enemy, people think it is because desire is simply the fuel, the fire, the movement within that says, I want something more than what I am right now. And without this spark, there would be no poetry, no science, no reaching across the stars or even across the street. But when this fire burns without clarity, when it burns without stillness, it can scorch the very being it seeks to warm. And this is where direction matters more than intensity, because blind desire, no matter how fierce, will only spin in circles and dig deeper holes in the same place rather than lifting you up. We must understand that what we desire is often a reflection of where we are, not where we are meant to go. And so the one who is restless may desire distraction, the one who feels small may desire power, the one who feels broken may desire control. But these are not false. They are simply the soul seeking to mend itself with whatever tools it can find. And if those tools are sharp, if they are misaligned, the healing can become harm. Unless there is direction, unless there is awareness, unless there is a moment of pause between the wanting and the acting, desire is just energy moving towards something, and energy in itself is not good or bad, not holy or sinful, it is just life. And the way we shape that energy, the way we direct it, that is what makes the difference between a life of quiet dignity and one of loud desperation. And yet most people try to kill the desire, suppress it, shame it, believing that wanting less is somehow spiritual. But it is not about wanting less, it is about wanting wisely, desiring consciously, longing in the direction of truth, not illusion. When a river flows with no banks to guide it, it floods and destroys. But when it has a path, when it is held and channeled, that same water gives life to entire civilizations, and desire is just like that. If you fear it and dam it up, it stagnates and turns bitter. But if you let it run wild, it drowns everything in chaos. So there has to be a holding, a guiding, a sacred structure that keeps your inner flow moving towards something that nourishes instead of consumes, something that deepens instead of distracts. To desire peace, to desire truth, to desire awakening is still a desire, and there is nothing impure about that, because the desire to grow, the desire to know, the desire to transcend is the very seed from which real transformation grows. And if you can hold that seed not with tight fists of ego, but with the open palms of humility, then that desire becomes a door, a gateway, a portal through which the entire cosmos begins to move in you and as you. But when direction is missing, even the most beautiful longing can become twisted, can become a mask for pain, for pride, for possession. And this is why so many chase power, thinking it will give them respect. Chase love, thinking it will give them worth. Chase success, thinking it will give them peace. And when none of these deliver what was truly needed, the desire becomes a wound, a bottomless well that no amount of outside achievement can fill. Because the direction was never inward, the movement was always outward. If you just sit quietly for a moment and ask yourself not what you want, but why you want it, not what you're chasing, but where it is taking you, then slowly the fog begins to clear and you begin to see that you do not need to suppress desire. You need to purify. You need to align it with something larger than your own cravings, something vast, something timeless, something still. Because then your longing becomes not a hunger but a prayer, not a demand but a devotion, not noise but music. So don't be afraid of your desire and don't try to escape it or hide from it or dress it up in the clothes of spirituality or productivity or moral superiority. Instead, look at it like a traveler looks at a compass and ask, where is this pointing? Ask, is it taking me closer to who I truly am or further away? And keep asking, keep walking, keep choosing direction over distraction, alignment over ambition. Because in the end, it's not the fire that burns you, it's the way you aim the flame. Improvement must begin within because anything that grows outward without first deepening inward is bound to become hollow, unsteady and fragile, like a tree with tall branches but no roots, like a house built high but not deep. And yet so many are obsessed with polishing the surface, with rearranging the furniture of their life while ignoring the foundation, with fixing the noise outside, while the silence inside remains untouched. But true growth is never an act of decoration, it is an act of transformation. And transformation doesn't start with changing your job or your body or your schedule. It starts with changing the way you see, the way you respond, the way you exist in each passing moment. You can spend years mastering skills, acquiring achievements, building networks and reputation. But if the inner space from which you act is still cluttered with fear, comparison, anger, or the constant need to prove something, true, then all your outer progress becomes a performance rather than a liberation. Because no matter how much you achieve on the outside, if the self within is restless, if it is wounded or unaware, then that unrest will seep into everything you touch and everything you create, and no amount of external success can quiet the internal dissonance. The truth is your outer world always in some subtle or not so subtle way mirror your inner state. And this is not some abstract philosophy but a direct observable fact. When you are agitated, even peace feels threatening. When you are empty, even abundance feels meaningless. But when you are clear, even chaos cannot shake you. And when you are whole, even solitude feels like company. So the journey of getting better cannot start with fixing the scenery. It must begin with cleansing the lens through which you see the world. Growth that is real cannot be compared because it is not linear, it is not loud, it is not made to be displayed. It is subtle, it is deep, it is often invisible to the outside world, like roots growing in silence, like rivers forming beneath stone. And when you seek to compare the depth of your inner journey with someone else's surface highlight, you forget that not everything that shines is steady and not everything unseen is small. The problem with comparison is not just that it distorts how you see others, it poisons how you see yourself. It makes you edit your truth to fit someone else's mold. It convinces you that growth must look a certain way, happen by a certain age, feel a certain way. So you start chasing not what is right for you, but what looks right to others, and in doing so, you abandon the very authenticity that was meant to guide you. Every being has its own timing, its own terrain, its own truth, and to compare is to dishonor that truth, to ignore the silent intelligence that life has already placed within you, because real growth requires trust. Trust in the pathless path, trust in the delays, trust in the pauses, and comparison shatters that trust, it turns presence into anxiety, and a sacred walk into a frantic run where no matter how far you go, it never feels like it. So if you truly wish to grow without looking sideways, grow without the itch to keep score, grow in such a way that your very movement is inward first, that your own past self is the only reference point. Because when your growth is measured only against your own becoming, there is no pressure to rush, no need to pretend, only the freedom to move at the speed of sincerity and the rhythm of real change. Let your desire to grow be rooted, not in what the world expects, not in what others achieve, but in that quiet call from within that says there is more to see, more to feel, more to feel, more to become. And when that desire is untouched by comparison, it becomes not a chase but a dance, not a race but a rising, not a burden but a blossoming into the vastness of who you truly are. Growth requires a certain emptiness because only what is open can receive, only what is unburdened can rise, only what is hollow can echo the truth clearly. And in a world that worships fullness, full schedules, full opinions, full identities, forget that nothing new can enter a space already crowded with certainty, with pride, with the noise of what we think we know. And so the beginning of real growth is not adding more, but gently loosening the grip on what no longer serves, on what was never ours to begin with. To grow is not to accumulate endlessly, but to release courageously, to make space for what has not yet arrived, to become like the sky, vast, uncluttered, ungrasping, because it is in the silence after the speaking, in the stillness after the striving, that life begins to whisper its deeper truths. And if we are too full of ourselves, too full of conclusions, too full of fear disguised as control, there is no room left for revelation. no air left for transformation to breathe. Emptiness is not a lack, not a void to be feared, but a readiness, a sacred openness, a quiet invitation that says, I'm willing not to know, I'm willing to be shaped, to be softened, to be humbled, and in that willing surrender, growth begins not in the pushing but in the allowing, not in the assertion of the mind but in the yielding of the heart. Because what is soft can stretch and what is open can rise. And without this surrender, all growth is cosmetic, not cellular. Just as a seed must break apart in the dark soil, must lose its shape to become a tree, so too must we shed the armor of who we were, must let the identity we clung to dissolve just enough to let something deeper emerge. And this is not a comfortable process, it is not quick or glamorous. Because emptiness is not easily understood in a world addicted to noise, to labels, to the illusion of always being on the way up. Huh? So many are afraid of emptiness because they think it means failure, disconnection, stagnation. But it is none of these, it is the pause between inhale and exhale, the sacred silence before the next symphony, the fertile ground where the roots of the unseen begin to move. And if you can sit in that space without rushing to fill it, without numbing it or naming it, you may begin to feel that growth is already happening, not in your effort but in your stillness. True emptiness is not the absence of meaning. It is the absence of clutter, it is the clearing away of false meanings, of borrowed beliefs, of inherent fears, and in that clearing something incredibly intelligent begins to emerge from within, not from imitation but from presence, but truth from life itself unfolding in you as you. And this unfolding can only happen where there is space, where there is silence, where there is willingness to be undone. So the path to deeper growth is not paved with constant doing, constant fixing, constant becoming, but with the quiet discipline of letting go, of listening deeply, of trusting the slow work of awareness. And in that trust, you begin to see that the most profound shifts don't shout. They don't announce themselves with fireworks, they arrive like morning light, soft, steady, unhurried, illuminating everything without needing to conquer anything. Let yourself be empty. Not because there is something wrong with you, not because you are missing anything, but because emptiness is the space where newness lives, where truth can enter uninvited, where growth can root itself not in noise but in depth. And when you can hold that emptiness with grace, without panic, without rushing to fill it with distractions, you will find that everything you were looking for was always waiting for you on the other side of letting go. Discomfort is part of the process because nothing truly alive can grow without pressure, without friction, without being moved out of what is known. And though we often crave transformation, we tend to resist the very heat that forges it, trying to find ways to change without the sting of effort, to evolve without the ache of shedding. But the truth is that discomfort is not a sign of something wrong. It is often a sign that something new is forming beneath the surface of who you thought you were. When you are being stretched beyond your habits, when your comfort zone begins to crack open, when the familiar no longer fits but the new has not yet arrived, there is a sacred unease that arises. Not because you are failing, but because you are unfolding. And in this raw space where the old is falling apart and the new has not yet taken form, discomfort becomes the midwife of growth, whispering not to turn back, but to breathe deeper and walk forward with awareness. The caterpillar must dissolve into a formless state before becoming a butterfly. The seed must break apart before the sprout can rise. And you too must pass through your own inner undoing, through days when the light seems too far, through nights when clarity disappears. Because growth is not always a climb, it is often a breakdown first, a dismantling of illusion, a necessary shaking of what was too rigid to hold you becoming. Discomfort humbles you, slows you down, breaks the momentum of your ego, and teaches you to pay attention in ways comfort never could. Because when things are easy, the mind assumes control. But when the ground begins to shake, only presence can guide you, only awareness can steady you. And this is why discomfort is not the enemy of growth, but its fiercest ally. It strips away the unnecessary, it reveals what was hidden, and it brings you face to face with the parts of yourself that convenience kept silent. You cannot grow without being uncomfortable with what you no longer want to be. And this is not punishment, it is purification because the tension you feel is not trying to destroy you, it is trying to shape you into something that can carry the weight of your next becoming. And the pain you feel is not meant to stop you, but to awaken parts of you that were asleep, to call forth strength you didn't know you had, to carve out depth where there was only repetition. The path of growth is not paved with perfect feelings, it is not always inspiring or graceful. And that is okay, because every real transformation must pass through discomfort like a doorway. And if you can walk through that doorway with your eyes open, with your heart soft, with your breath steady, you will find that what felt like a burden was actually a blessing wearing the disguise of difficulty. So when discomfort visits you, don't rush to escape it, don't label it as failure. Instead, listen to it, sit with it, ask what it is burning away, what it is revealing, what it is asking you to release or embrace. When you stop fighting discomfort and begin to cooperate with it, you realize it is not trying to hurt you, it is trying to make room for more life to flow through you. Let discomfort be part of the process, not as a punishment to endure, but as a sign that you are alive, that you are moving, that something inside you is no longer content with the smallness you once accepted. And if you honor that, if you walk through that fire with intention, what emerges on the other side will not just be stronger, it will be more true, more whole, more